I want to share with you the idea of Earth trusteeship. You can see right now an image of the Earth, the famous photo, the blue marble. For 50 years now, we have photographic evidence of the simple fact that the Earth is real, a beautiful blue planet, a living system where humans are just one element of so many other elements that together constitute the Earth. In fact, we can conceive the Earth as something we have a relationship with. How does it feel to be part of the Earth, we can ask? Or can you imagine that it feels like how children feel of their mother? Is it even possible to speak of Mother Earth? Well, the 2015 Paris Agreement on climate change does just that. In its preamble, it refers to the importance of ensuring the protection of the integrity of all ecosystems, including the oceans, the biodiversity, in some cultures referred to as Mother Earth. There you have it, Mother Earth. Of course, only a few cultures recognize this term and the meaning of it. And nevertheless, we can argue that international environmental law is recognizing the scientific reality of a living system, sometimes being referred to as Gaia. The point here is that no less than 27 international environmental agreements refer to the need of cooperation of states in order to ensure the integrity of the Earth's ecological system, singular. This is impressive, isn't it? In science, this is being referred to as the Earth system. Of course, the Earth system consists of 4 major spheres: the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, the biosphere, and the geosphere. And they all play together in order to form one larger system called Earth. So while we can say that international environmental law is recognizing this phenomenon in some way, and with repetitive language, of course, there's something missing. What's missing currently is the clear guidance in terms of what it means for the actual incorporation of those commitments in domestic laws and policies. As international law and domestic laws operate at this stage, they tend to completely ignore the existence of the Earth system, rather taking Earth for granted as a convenient assembly of natural resources that humans need or want, but excluding virtually the non-human world and ignoring the interconnectedness between human and non-human beings. So this is referred to commonly as the fragmentation and reductionism that we see in environmental law. The current system of environmental law is strictly separating 2 areas: the areas inside national jurisdiction and the areas outside national jurisdiction. The areas inside national jurisdictions are governed really by 2 core principles: the principle of sovereignty and property. And within national jurisdictions, you have this phenomenon that people can use air, water, and soils rather freely. And any kind of control mechanisms to minimize pollution is really the result of a compromise between weighing up the weight of property rights against the needs of the public. So there's an inbuilt compromise there. For areas outside national jurisdiction, we have a reference to many treaties and, of course, legal principles. They all sound maybe good. What's missing, again, is the concrete enforcement, implementation of those treaties and principles. Again, that has to do with the concept of sovereignty, or more precisely, how it's being understood. So far, sovereignty and property thinking have really trumped, so to speak, any kind of concerns for the wider issues, the welfare of all human beings and the welfare of the earth at large. But it doesn't have to stay that way. The reality now is that we have to consider how to overcome what I call the ecological blindness of laws internationally and domestically. How can we achieve that governments are learning to take ecological realities seriously and implement them into existing policies and laws and drafting new ones? What I am referring here now is, as we see governments learning that the Earth system is a reality, we might conceive developments towards a Earth system law concept, which would be one that is rested on two other principles: trusteeship and global commons. In international law, the global commons are understood to be the areas outside national jurisdiction that can be used freely by others, by everybody, that are not owned by anybody, however, require responsibility by us all. So local communities, states, and the international community of states need to consider themselves as guardians or trustees for those global commons. So there you have it, trustees, trusteeship. What do we mean by trusteeship? One way to think about it is consider how we can all see ourselves as trustees of other people. Think of people as young children who, of course, need representation by their parents, acting as guardians or trustees. Or think of people who are dead, our ancestors, or people who are yet to be born, future generations. All of these people need some sort of care by those who are alive, by those who take responsibility. This is the core meaning of trusteeship, which in fact is a common heritage, so to speak, of virtually all legal cultures that we know, and not just indigenous cultures. In one way or another, and with different terminology and language, the very concept that we have to take responsibilities for those who cannot take responsibilities for themselves, including people and these days the earth, can be easily conceived deriving from the rich history of legal cultures. Mind you, mostly non-Western legal culture. At least modern Western law has lost this sense of trusteeship. So how can we sort of regenerate this concept? We have to be mindful of what it fundamentally entails. Where I'm coming from, New Zealand, we refer to katiakitanga. A person defines itself or herself as somebody who's connected to the land and therefore indistinguishable from the land. You have responsibilities. In a non sort of indigenous context, Western context, we could at least remind ourselves about some ethical underpinnings. If you act as a trustee, what you really do, your practice of what many, many scholars and philosophers in the Western world have said. I just want to quote Albert Schweitzer, who famously said, "I am life that wants to live amidst life that wants to live." So there you have it, the core of ecological consciousness or awareness, the awareness of interconnectedness. In other words, we all need to be mindful of the intrinsic value and the intrinsic rights that all forms of life have. Fundamentally, nature has a right to exist and to flourish, just as human beings. These kind of ideas have recently found some traction, not the least with respect to rights of nature. There are a number of countries that we can refer to, including Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia, New Zealand, India, and most recently Spain, that have done just that in incorporating rights of nature. But we can also think of many, many initiatives in many countries, including, for example, Germany. And it is not essential under all circumstances to actually change the wording of existing laws. Things can change by interpreting them in a different way. If I just use the example of Germany, the German Constitution in Article 14, protecting property, says in Article 14, Section 2, property entails obligations. The use of property needs to serve the public good. So all it takes is to interpret the public good really as meaning incorporating the public good of all, of people and the foundational rights of a non-human world. And similarly, in Article 28, we have the state obligation formulated in the sense that the state has an obligation to protect the natural conditions of life. What are the natural conditions of life? Well, they can be interpreted as fundamentally recognizing the existence of a fundamental right of nature to exist and flourish. At global level, we can refer to the Hague Principles. In December 2008, to mark the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, many environmental groups, human rights groups, indigenous rights groups, and rights of nature networks have drafted and adopted the Hague Principles towards a new Universal Declaration of Responsibilities for Human Rights and Earth Trusteeship. I consider this a major achievement of civil society in the efforts of the Earth Charter and now agreeing on the Earth Principles, on the Hague Principles that are currently being promoted around the world by conversations to governments. And this has reached the United Nations as well. At UN level, I like to refer to the report, Our Common Agenda by the Secretary General, calling for the UN Trusteeship Council to be repurposed. And in a recent report by the High-Level Advisory Board in preparation of the Future Summit next year in September in 2024, this report with the title, A Breakthrough for People and Planet, summarizes its ideas by saying our responsibilities that we all have for current and future generations. We need to accept trusteeship for the planet. So what does it take, trusteeship for the planet, in institutional terms and legal terms? Hopefully this will be sorted out at the Future Summit. In order to get there and talk about these fundamental things, I would like to close by encouraging all of us to think of our role that we have individually. First of all, we need to, in our private lives, consider to treat gently on the earth by resist consumer society. Watch what you are buying. Eat local food or vegan food. Use your bike, use public transport, travel gently, and most importantly, respect other people, not just here, but everywhere, and respect the planet. This constitutes responsible global citizenship. As global citizens, we have a commitment to all people and to the planet at large. And this is what is required, because citizenship is the core idea of democracy. So as global citizens, we are advocating what eventually can become what I call Earth democracy and Earth trusteeship. Thank you.